Good morning everyone, it's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it is time for everyone's favorite event, Jubilee Catalyst number 18, with a turn limit restriction on the boss battle again, so making its return. It's not very fun. This meta is wonky, so the boss battles play to that wonkiness, and if you don't have the wonky Earth team, you're gonna suffer a little bit. So I apologize in advance for everyone who doesn't have a good Earth team, but this is a pretty easy skip meta, and Earth 1.0 outside of Hakuro and Valentine is pretty meh, so I don't expect a lot of people to be able to get halfway decent scores on this team, on this fight, so your results are really going to vary this time. But we're going to start out with the normal battles today, so here are my scores as of Friday afternoon, and I hate this Jubilee so much that I'm not going to do it anymore, so whatever we end up at the end of the period is where we're going to sit, because I'm not doing any more of this, so normal 1, 2, and 3, 10, 6, and 3, that will change. I've got a few different teams to use today, so this video might be a little bit longer. I know they're normally long, but you know, I'll definitely put timestamps in here. So before we get started, disclaimers are your results may vary based on your box. Your protection trait characters are here, and then don't forget to do your magic buildings in town for the best output for whatever element you're happening to use at the time. So with that said, let's jump into normal battle 1, of which I have 3 teams to show you. Alright, so here's normal 1's first team, space team. We've got Guy this time instead of Hakuro, because I actually had better luck with Hakuro, or better luck with Guy than I did Hakuro, because he gives us the ults. It's pretty easy. Misery is boosting those greens for that little bit of extra damage that you're going to need. And then Carrion's here for his buff, Hero is here because she's Hero, Milim is our main nuker, and Benimaru is here for the Orb Steal. So let's jump in, because I know I redo this already. There we go. So I think this is where we're sitting right now. So turn 1, we're going to use Benimaru to steal, and I don't be surprised that these spiders like to guard like every other hit. So I ran into many runs where they just guarded like 3 out of the 6 hits, and it frustrated me terribly. So it can happen, it will happen, so just be prepared for it. So we're going to bring Benimaru in for the steal. We're going to steal those 2 Carrion orbs, and then we're going to bring Milim in. Now my Milim, I don't know if she's different, she's a level 100, so, but she's not strong enough to kill on a 3-2-1 spread on these spiders. They just have a little too much health, so you have to do 3-3 and then just leave one of the spiders alive at full health, just to make sure you don't take any excess damage from having 2 of them alive, or 3 of them, you know, if they happen to guard. So that has happened as well. So we've got Milim's ult now. We're going to go ahead and use Drago and the Rewind buff, and then we're going to send her away for, I believe, Misery, yes. So now we have 5 hero orbs. So I'm not even going to use Guy right here. We can definitely kill the spider with 5 hero orbs. So we'll go ahead and send this, even though he guarded 1. So you see that it took all 5 to kill him. So now Rewind kicks in, turn 2.5. And now we can have, hopefully, an entire hand of greens that will be boosted by Misery. So, and that'll give us plenty of points. The only thing with this team is that I don't really have a way to double buff, right? So I didn't have enough points to use a space buff turn 1 or turn 2, and Guy doesn't raise your skill cap, so you're kind of stuck with just like the space buff or the crit buff, and Drago, and then maybe Carrion's buff if you can swing it. So that's the only kind of downside with this team. Definitely if you have, like, I would say Leon, but he's physical, and they have physical resistance, so it's like, what are you really going to do here? It is a team that can work and can get you a score, though. So there we go. We've got boosted greens. We've got the hero ult now automatically. And then we're just going to send everything and pray that we kill here. Pray. 1, 2, 3. Nope. Okay, so see, they have quite a bit of health than you're normally used to. And they're type neutral, which means we're not getting that extra, like, 1.5 times damage. So this is going to be a turn 4 kill here. What I could have done maybe was use the crit buff instead from the hero, but then we would be missing out on something for the kill turn. But again, like I said, we only have enough points for 1 stat buff. So it is what it is. So there we got around that by using the space buff now, and then we're just gonna send the rest of this and kill. So we're gonna go Guy again, change all these, and then we're going to pray that, with the space buff, the hero and... Oh, we're just gonna nuke. Okay. Well, surprising right there. I guess we're going for maximum damage with that buff. So, again, we have a hero ult, though, again. So I guess that's what we're going for. And then we can just bring Milim in, and then use her to nuke, and then hero to nuke, and then Carrion to nuke, I guess. So there's Carrion buff and the crit buff. We can use Guy to get some extra orbs out of this to lower their health. Turn 3 is the max turn, so this isn't the best example, but again, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So we're gonna spread out the 2 Carrion orbs because he's weaker, much weaker than Milim. So he won't kill them immediately, but we can only send 2 because we can't send that 3rd Milim orb because that would kill. So Milim hits 71, Carrion hits like 30 something, not even that, 22 because he's a noodle. And then the hero hits 16,000, so that gives us a final score of 3814, which is only about 2,000 less than my high score right now. So, hey, it works out. So that was the first team. Not the best team, but let's move on to the second team. All right, here is the second team that you can use if you have it. I got an extra dupe in my Diablo and my Gabiru now, so why not? So the win team is all magic damage, so that's working, fairly well for this team that has, physical resistance on the stage. Trainee and Rimuru here for their traits. The hero is here because she's the hero. Geld is here as our faux orb stealer because, you start out with 4 oranges, 2 blues, so Geld can change those 2 blues into whoever has the highest attack, which if you can work it, can be Diablo or whoever, and then you can still essentially have 6 orbs of the same character, just like you are stealing with Benimaru or Daggerel. So it works out fairly well. Diablo is our nuker. Milim, in a perfect world, is our side nuker, so like a single target and then an ult, or AoE ult for these other 2. I don't think I get that here, but I was too done with this stage by the end of the night last night. So let's do this, and then we will start this battle up. So there we go. So we've got 2 trainee, 4 hero. So Geld, we're going to bring Diablo in for the hero. He has the highest attack stat now. We're going to use the steal, technically, the giveaway, to give Diablo those 2 blues, and then we'll have a full 6 card send of them. And again, just like we're going to send 3 and 3, just like we did with the space team, or not because we killed, ironically, one of them in 2 hits. So we did a little bit extra damage to that 3rd spider. Either way, 2 of them are still dead. So now we have Diablo's ult plus some. It doesn't really matter that much that we have that extra. So here we should be using... No, I think we're going to... I quit out because I don't want that orange, but I think we play through it anyways. So we're going to use the attack buff, and then we're going to send him away. We're going to bring the hero in, and that way we can get the rewind on as well. Rewind. We're not going to rewind. Okay, we're checking to see how many points we would get. So, there we go. There's the rewind. Geld comes in for the hero, because he's also magic damage. And I'm going to send the 2 trainee orbs. And thankfully they do kill, because I want that orange out of there. Because I want a full hand on the rewind of just greens and blues. That way I don't have to use any orb changing. And I think it works out. It does work out. Alright. But, because we used Geld's giveaway earlier, I don't have enough points to use it to give it all the orbs to Milim, which is unfortunate. So we have a whole hand of blues, so we're going to do our best, because, Milim has that extra magic boost. She has the attack boost from the trait from Romerus being attached to Gabiru, so hopefully this kills right here. This 6-card send can kill all 3 with those extra buffs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the final hit does, I believe, kill, because it pierced. Otherwise it wouldn't have. So there we go. We're moving on to phase 3. We don't have the AoE ult. We do have Diablo's ult, and we do have some interesting orbs here, so we're going to make the most out of it. We've got double Gabaru Protector skill, so that's 30 points that we can have right there. So it's going to go ahead and use the ult boost from Milim. And then we're going to bring Diablo in for Geld. And then we're going to use the magic buffs and protection gauge. Or not protection gauge, but blue orb change. And then that gives us another 15 points. And then when we use it again, that will give us enough for the crit buff on the hero. Just by 2 points. So we'll bring her in for trainee because we're not going to use her. And then the crit buff from the hero. And now we're going to nuke with Diablo, send 2, and then send 1. So it doesn't really matter who we hit, but we don't really have the luxury of spreading out damage first here. So we got the nuke, we've got 2 Milim, and then the final hit will be Diablo, who is triple boosted technically. So Diablo, 73,000, the 2 Milims, because they're critting, do kill, and then Diablo's final hit kills that third spider with 11k. And our score ends up being 39.5, which is 700 points less than what I'm currently sitting at. So, not the best turn. If I had gotten a Milimalt somehow, it would have been higher, but we didn't. So, this works. It can work for you if you can run it. But let's move on to the third team, which is the team that I got the highest score with. So, it's probably the easiest team to do. Okay, the final team that we're going to use for normal one is the water team. Again, being all magic works well. So we've got Hakro, we've got Water Milim attached to him, Shuna, Beretta for the orb change, because we're not going to steal on this team. We're just going to change those 2 blues to oranges and call it good. And then we've got Xion, Hinata in the back, and then the hero for the rewind. So that's the team. We've got 4 magic damage dealers, which is good. And then we've got the hero. So this, I think, is a little bit wonky. I only have enough for like 2 buffs at the end of the time, so not fully maxed out, but it does give me a higher score than the other 2 teams. So let's go ahead and start this up. And there we go. After this loads. So I think this clip is like half an hour long or something. Alright, so turn 1, after we stare at Shion's ass, we're going to orb change with Beretta and give us a whole hand of oranges, but it'll be 2 and 4. So we'll be working on 1 alt and getting an alt for another, so which works out fine. So there's that. We'll bring in Hinata for Beretta, because ideally, yeah, it would be cool to have 2 single target alts. Maybe it would be better to have Xion, but I don't have the best gear for her, so she just doesn't have the stats. So there's another 3 and 3 send on 2 of the spiders, so both of them are dead, leaving 1 alive. And now we have Hinata's ult. Excellent. And then we're quite close to having Shuna's ult, which is good because we have 4 Shuna orbs, and we're about to have 5. So we've used Hinata's attack buff. We're going to swap her out for the hero for the rewind. And then we're just going to send these 5, and that will get us Shuna's ult, which is great. So we're working pretty well right there. And now we're going to move on to phase 2, turn 2.5, and we're going to pray that we can do this. But we have 2 units that give crit, right? We have the hero who gives crit and crit resistance down, and we've got Xion who gives crit and magic attack up. So take your pick on what would be better. For this hand, it's better to use the hero because she's not going to benefit from that magic attack. So here we go. We've got a 6 hand, we've got guaranteed crits, and their resistance is down, so we should be able to kill all 3 of these spiders right here, while having enough points to use 2 major buffs next turn for Hinata. So there's 3, 2, and then 1 spread here from Shuna. 10,000 crit right there. So now we're on to phase 3. We have triple ult now, so very, very good. And we have 1 orb for the hero, thank God, so we can bring in Hinata. Hinata, who already has her attack buff, so we can use the ult, and then we can use Hakuro again to give us extra points, and that will give us enough for the crit and magic attack boost, because Hinata will benefit more from the crit than she will from the water, because Hinata's secondary part of her skill is crit damage for 40%, and if you're not critting, then you're not taking advantage of that. So it's better than using the water attack. So now we're going to spread some damage out. Unfortunately, we can't send all of them because I'm pretty sure that they would all kill. So we're going to send 2 and then we're going to nuke, and then nuke with Shuna, and then the final hit will be cleanup on Shion's ult. So triple ult right here, turn 3, worked out pretty well. We're going to send the Shion orb at the very end, that way that Shuna's orb does not get that extra damage boost that will end up killing. So there's 1, there's 2, and then Shion does 18,000 damage, and that gives me my final score of the 40,000 something that I'm sitting at right now. Yeah, 40,000.2. So if your Hinata and Shuna are level 100s, they will hit significantly harder, which will increase your score. But those are the 3 teams that I found work moderate to okay to good, for normal 1 being the stupidest of the stages. So let's move on to normal 2, which is significantly easier. Alright, normal 2, this is the first team we're going to use. It's the Guy Space team again. We've got Carrion, we've got the Hero, we've got Misery, we've got Milim, and we've got Velzard for the orb change as well. Now this is another stage where you can choose whether or not to orb change or orb steal, because it is another 4-2 spread, so it's really up to you and what you can do. If you have this team, then you can use Velzard to orb change. If you have the light team, which is significantly better, you can just use Dagger or Benny Mara to orb steal. So one of those 2 works, but this is the first team we're going to use because it, worked moderately well. So let's move out. Turn 1, we're going to orb steal or orb change with Velzard, get a 4-2 spread for a total of 6 orbs. It's 2 orcs, and then there's 1 big orc. So it's not 3 phases, it's only 2 phases, which makes things a little bit easier, I guess, because you don't have to kill 3 whole waves of things. But these orcs are a little bit tankier, so a full 6 orb send will just kill 1 with little extra, unless your team is very, very stacked. So here we've got 2 blue, 4 green, so that's why Velzard is here. We'll bring Velzard in for probably Misery. No, we're going to bring Milim in for Misery, and then Velzard in for Carrion, and then orb change. And then we've got 6, and then we're going to send those 6 against the first orc, who will die with nothing left over, I don't think. Or 5, and yeah, so took all 6 to kill it. I think on my Asia account, my light team can kill him and then have that final hit go to the other orc, but he still doesn't die. It's just enough. So not enough to get the ult for Milim, but, we have Guy, right? So we're going to use the space boost and the rewind because we have enough points for it. We're going to use Guy. This will give us Milim's ult automatically, so now we can just send her away. Right? She doesn't have to be here anymore. So we'll bring Misery in for the green boost next turn, because these 6 greens should give us another protection gauge after we use it. So let's just do that, and that. Ooh, it does not. Unfortunate. Okay. But he is dead. So now we're moving on to the orc. It is still turn 2.5, so we have time to make up for that missing protection gauge. It's just that we're going to do a little bit less damage. But we do already have the space buff on Milim, so we don't really have to worry about that. We will have enough points to use the hero's crit buff. So here, I think we're just going to use the greens and get as many points as possible. We could send the hero orbs for damage, but I think the points is more important right here. So there we go. It doesn't really matter what we send in what order because it's only 3. They're not getting any extra additional boost. So 1, 2, 3. He's at 2/3 health. Fair place to be. Take 1 hit. It is now turn 3, which is the kill turn. We have 95 points, which should be enough to use just about everything I want. So we're going to bring you in for Misery, since you're not going to do anything anymore. We're going to bring Carrion in for Velzard. And then we're going to use the crit buff, Drago, and then Carrion's crit buff. So we are fully boosted here. And then we're also going to use Guy, just for funsies. Give us a little bit extra orbs. I don't want to send too much, so I think I just send the 1 Milim and pray. I could have sent maybe a Carrion and hero, or maybe 2 heroes. But I bank. I gamble here, and I send the 1 Milim, because she's quite boosted. And we do just barely enough, and then we nuke for 71,000 right there. And that gives us a score of 34-7, and I'm currently sitting at 35-3, so not too far off. So there is the first team you can use. Let's move on to the second team and the better team. Alright, the light team, favoring greens, burst damage, that's kind of what, and single target, by the way, single target burst green damage is what this team is all about. So we've got Shizu with Rammers, with Shinsha, with the hero, with Rimuru, with Daggerel for the Orb Steal, and then Xion is in the back. Definitely other ways to build this. You could bring Leon instead and maybe try and play around with a 50% light buff instead. Certainly possible, but I don't think well, obviously we don't do it here. But this team is very, very good. And if your Xion is 100, she will hit much harder. So let's zoom through this. Here we go. Alright, so turn 1, we're going to Orb Steal with Daggerel, so we don't have to worry about Orb changing turn 1, and then we'll bring Xion in for her full 6 Orb Send. Works out very, very well, because she's going to get an ult, we can send her away, and then we can just use skills to stack up the Pierce Power and Pierce Rate of Shizu and Xion's skills, which I still think is a very, very good kit. Something we obviously haven't seen before and haven't seen since. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even guarded one. And then the 6th hit goes ahead and kills. Like I said, on my Asia account, my level 100 Xion and Shizu are able to kill the Orc in 5, and then the 200% hit goes to the other one, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So here, we're going to use the Rewind and the Light buff, since it's cheap. Alright? We're going to have enough points for that, yeah. So Light buff, Rewind, and then the skill point and Orb change from Xion, just so we get more skill points off of this. And we get the light boost on her, because now we're going to send her away. So Rimuru's going to come in for her. That way we get a little bit of protection trait on turn 3. And then we're going to use Shizu, make this whole hand of greens that are now skill point boosted and protection gauge boosted. So this thing is going to die. We're going to move on to turn 2.5, the Rewind, onto the final phase against that Orc. After I sit here and pause for a little bit for some reason. There we go. Alright, so 6 Orb, we've got another Shizu, we've got 96 skill points, so we're looking very, very, very good. I mean, you could leave Xion in here and just get skill points and then kill him turn 2 if you don't want to take that hit. Like, it's entirely possible. If you have this team, you can do the stage in 2 turns. No doubt. You'll have enough points. But we do turn 3, just because. So, here, we're going to use more stacks of skills. So there's the Pierce Resistance. It'll be good for 2 turns, so that's good. That'll make him a little bit weaker to it. And then we're going to send these oranges. And it's kind of dangerous because we obviously are still piercing if we hit. So we can do a lot of damage. And Shinsha still has that extra 15% light buff. So here, turn 3, we have 100 skill points. Pierce Resistance is already on. Light buff is already on. So we're going to bring in Daggerel and use his Light Resistance down skill to, just make us hurt even more. And then we'll bring Xion in. And we have just enough points to use her buff and the hero crit buff. So there's that. We have 5 left over. And then we're going to use Shizu for like 110% pierce rate or something like that. It's something that we're going to guarantee. We're overly guaranteed to pierce right here. And I don't know why I'm pausing still. Okay, there we go. We use Shizu. Alright. So now we're going to send, I think, one thing. One Rimuru, one hero. Okay. Which is a good call. And then Xion hits for 87.7. And I think my Xion on my Asia account hit like 100 something. So definitely can get higher. But there's 35.3 right there. That is my current highest score for normal 2. So that's all I have for normal 2. Let's move on to normal 3. Alright, normal 3, I actually have 3 teams to show. One of which is the best, one of which is okay, and one of which is pretty bad, but it works for points, I guess. So, Milim, the water team, obviously this is the third fight of Jubilee is always the same. It's always 5-6 turns of stacking with whatever team works best. Now it's the water team. Milim, Shuna, Xion. We've got Phobio here for the orb change, since they were not nice enough to give us a starting hand of good blues. We have a starting hand of 2 greens and 4 oranges, which if you have Phobio skill leveled up to like level 9, it will give you protection gauge on turn 2. So make sure to keep that in mind, because if you leave it at like level 8, it's like 7%, and it will be just a nut tap away from giving you protection gauge. So if you're ever wondering why, level up his skill just a little bit more, and then you'll get there. And then we've got Rimuru and Hinata for obvious reasons. So let's go ahead and click this over and figure out where I am. There we go. Alright, so obviously this is a good team, right? Turn 5 is technically max turn bonus, but he still has all of his defense up, so if you're confident that your overkill damage can be significant, then just go to turn 6 and don't nerf your damage. So he does have 80% guard and 80% defense, so he's quite a tanky boy. He can take a few unboosted ults and still be alive. And, you know, a full hand of green, or a full hand of orange turn 1 is pretty much going to guarantee you're going to have multiple ults this fight. And it's better off to just use them unbuffed than they are trying to, you know, play around and lose orbs. So I'm going to go ahead and send Hinata last because he is tanky. Again, this will get us Milim turn 2, at least. We'll get a little bit extra from Shion's trait. We'll get extra skill points from Shuna and Hinata's trait, which will be very helpful. And we get fairly lucky right here because we just need to use one orb change with Rimuru, and then we're, you know, all set for a hand of blue. So we're going to go ahead and take out, I believe, Shuna. Yeah, and then we'll just use Rimuru's orb change, and then we'll swap him out for Phobio. And we'll also use a stack of Hinata's alt buff, so that's an extra 5% right there, just for funsies, because we had enough left over, and we're going to get quite a bit from this full hand of blue. So this will give us 117 points, another Milim gauge, so hopefully we get lucky again with blue orbs. Now, keeping Hinata in on turn 2 means she might get poisoned. Keeping her in on turn 3 means that you will have, like, negative pierce power, so it's better to get Hinata out of here, especially if you already have her ult, then you don't have to worry about it. But that pierce debuff is good for like 4 turns or something, and it will hurt if you trying to nuke on turn 5. If you nuke on turn 6, it doesn't matter because he doesn't have pierce debuff, or he doesn't have defense anymore, or guard, so it's fine. But here we go, we get fairly lucky again, so. And we have a Shion ult, which we're just going to use. We didn't use it, okay, because we had another blue coming in. So we sacrificed the ult for another full hand of blues for more stacks on stacks. So it works out. Max points. We've got another Milim to go through to stack on top of Hinata. So we're looking pretty good. And now you'll see after this, the debuff comes onto our units. So there we go. So no bueno if you're trying to do turn 5, but we're not. We don't really care. So we're going to get Hinata in for another stack. And then I think we can do enough to get another almost full hand of blue. So we're going to, I believe, take Hinata in for Phobio, and it's going to steal that 1. No, don't do it. Oh, you did it. Okay, well, that was a mistake. But I think we make up for it anyways just by bringing Shion in for her ult. So I should have just brought Hinata in and then gotten her, used a Milim stack, but it works out. So we still have a full hand to send here. So we're going to get another Milim stack and a lot of points. So, and like I said, he's tanky enough to take these 2 ults, right? You know, 15,000 on the single target, like 8,000 or something on this, 7,000. And then the 4 follow-ups, and he's still not even in yellow health yet. So don't be afraid to send the ults. Just make sure they're not really overly buffed. So this is turn 5, so we can nuke here, which I believe is what we're going to do. So that's why it's important, if you're going to do this, to keep Hinata out of harm's way on turn 3 to not get that debuff, because you see it's still active on Shuna and Phobio. So now we're going to bring Hinata in. We've used the alt buff. Go ahead and get one more stack of Milim on here. And then we'll use the Shion buffs. And then we'll nuke away. So he doesn't have any crit defense, so at least not that I'm aware of, for us to take away with Hinata's skill. No, defense, guard, and guard power. So no crit defense or crit resistance to worry about. So we're going to go ahead, I believe, and send 2 orbs. Yeah. 1, 2, which we could have sent more. That did less damage than I thought. But crit pierce, 165. We got the natural pierce, so that's pretty cool. And our score ends up being 35-8, which is still my highest, and it's still like number 3 as of today, which as soon as this video comes out, people will do it, and then I'll get kicked out. So that is the best team. Like I said, you can wait till turn 6, and you'll do a little bit more damage because his defense will be gone. But max turn bonus is important as well. So there's water team. Let's move on to the space team now. Oop. There we go. All right, so space team, Veldora, Rimuru, Carrion, Shuna, Hero, and Milim. We are not bringing a orb changer for the hand, right? We're going to send the 4 oranges and then pray that we can get some good luck on turn 2. It's kind of dangerous, but I figured bringing Rimuru was more important. So now we have 3 orb changers on the team. Right, we've got Carrion, we've got Rimuru, and we have Shuna. So hopefully that makes up for not having that turn 1 orb change. And I think it can. This team is just not as good as the water team as far as stacking quickly, because blues and the massive amount of skill points you get on the water team versus the good amount of skill points with Veldora, but for every orb. But you're really looking for blues only, right? Because you want stacks of Veldora. So he just buffs them less. So we're going to send the 4 oranges, and then we're going to pray that we get a good hand on turn 2, which we kind of do. It actually works out very well having that many Carrion, because it means that I can just use Rimuru right here. It's unfortunate we don't have any Milim orbs, but it is what it is. So Rimuru's going to come in for Carrion. We're going to use his steel to turn those 3 greens into blues, and then we'll use his other orb change to turn that last one into blue for an entire hand. We'll bring him out for Shuna to, make sure that we can do things with his skill again. These are not buffed though, right? Because we didn't get it turn 1. So it's unfortunate we're not making as many skill points as I would like off this entire hand of blues. But we do have, I think, a double stack of Veldora now. I think. Yes, we do. Okay. So, and then we get 4 Milim orbs, which is pretty good. So Veldora and Veldora again. A lot of talking today. Alright, so here we're going to bring Carrion in for Milim, because this is turn 3, and I don't want Milim to have that debuff. So we're going to just play with orbs, and we sent the 2 hero in the event that we get 2 Carrion, which we did. So now we've avoided the debuff. We have an entire hand of Carrion, which is now an entire hand of Milim, and we'll use the rewind so we can get some extra stuff out of this turn. Not quite enough to get the Veldora stack though, which is really, really unfortunate right there. I really wish we had an extra blue or an extra green instead of an extra orange on that hand. But at least we have Milim's ult, right? That's the most important thing, is we have Milim's ult. So let's go ahead and use Drago and Space, and then we'll send her away. That way we don't have to worry about as many buffs on the nuking turn, which I believe we pushed to turn 6 here to get away from that extra defense. And also we needed it because we just didn't have enough points. So we're going to send the Shuna orbs. We're going to get her ult, the stack of Veldora, which is good. You see we do 1 damage if he guards. Alright, so here, pretty good hand, alright? We've got enough that we can do a full hand of blues, because we can use the Rimuru Steel and then the Shuna Orb change, and that will give us everything. Right? Right? Yep, so there's that. And then you're going to come in for Shuna. Yep. Alright, there's Veldora's stack on Milim, so that's the 3rd stack now. And then we'll bring Carrion in. And then we should have enough to use both of his orb changes right there for a whole hand of blues. And this is the last turn, so I don't care about leaving Rimuru in for, playback later. So here we are, 148 skill points. So this is why I used the space boost earlier, is because sometimes you just won't have enough to use everything. And lo and behold, we didn't have enough to use everything. So we don't have to worry about it. So here, we will bring Shuna in first for Rimuru, probably. There we go, okay. Probably, there we go. Alright, so alt boost, 55 points, down. Alright, so now we're going to bring Milim in. Now that she's got that buff, she has a space boost, she has Drago. We'll use Veldora's stack, so that's 4 stacks now. And then we'll use the crit and crit. And that'll leave us with just enough. So now we are fully buffed. He has quite a bit of health left. So we're going to send these three. I think we send all 3 carrions, and it's still not enough. So 1, 2, yeah, he just didn't do a lot of damage right there. He's still green. So then Milim nukes for like 160, 153. So no natural pierce, but turn 6, he has less defense, so there you go. We're missing, I think, 2,000 points on turn bonus, but obviously that worked. 33 is 2,000 and change less than what I have, but it's still, Space Team is still a good team to use here. So that's the second team, and now let's use the funny team for, I guess, if you don't have either of these two. Alright, the last team, one of my favorite teams, the light team. It's not the best team for the stage. It just cannot compare to the stacking power of space and water. But if you don't have space because you weren't playing during that time, and you don't have water because you got shafted, but you have the light team because they were brides and they're hot, you know, you can make something work. So, Shizu, Phobio's here for the orb change turn 1, Rimuru and Xion are here obviously for the nuking, and then the hero and Leon are here for the support buffs. So let's go ahead and start this up. And this will be the last section of the video. It's going to be like a 40-something minute video. So definitely timestamps are going to be in the description. So you can flip around and see what team caters to you the best. This team is not great for the stage. I know I said it already, but if it's what you got, it's what you got. So turn 1, we're going to orb change with Phobio. Make that work. And then we're going to bring, I think, Leon in. So turn 1, there's Phobio's orb change. And then he comes out for... Oh, the hero. Okay. The hero comes in. Alright, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But this will get us, I think, Xion's ult because of her trait on turn 2, which means we can just send her away, and we don't have to worry about that Pierce resistance debuff, or Pierce power debuff. So, there's the first hit. And we've got Shizu to make full hands of greens, so it's like, we're going to be okay on points. So, let's go ahead and use... Ooh. What do we use here? I actually don't remember using this team. It was like 12:30 at night or something. Alright. Leon? What do we use here? So we've already used the rewind. We've used something else as well. We've used Xion's orb change. Okay, for some extra stacks. So we'll get Phobia out of here. We'll use Shizu, change these into greens. And so the idea with this team is that you get Xion's ult, and then you can put the light buff on her and then send her back away again. And then when you're ready to nuke, you can use the crit buff, and then you'll have, Xion's buff, the light buff, the pierce resistance, and the crit buff on her, so she can do as much damage as she possibly can. So here, we're going to use an orb change for full hand of oranges. Like, I think we hit turn 6 on this team. We might hit turn 5. For this team, it's probably better to hit turn 6. Because he just has a lot of defense and a lot of guard that he had to get through. So, alright, so we've got a Rimuru ult, we've got a hero ult. Cool beans, whatever. But here, turn 3, we should bring Xion in, and we'll put the light buff on her now, and then we'll send her back away, so she doesn't get debuffed. And I'm just trying to decide who to swap out, because obviously we need Leon for that. But whose ult do I want to send on this turn? Which we decide to send the heroes, because it's weaker. So there's the light buff, there's another orb change, so this is the final turn of stacking right here, so anything else we use after this turn is not going to count towards our pierce power or pierce rate, but that's fine because we've used pretty much everything we need to use now except for the pierce resistance, but we're not going to use that yet because it would run out. So there's that, we'll use Shizu again, and then we'll send this entire hand and just whittle him away. The hero doesn't have that light buff because it doesn't affect her, so she's not going to do any extra damage here. 7,500 with a pierce. Cool. And then we just start sending greens. And then turn 4 comes up, and I think we just kind of sit. Alright, so hero's got another ult. Cool. And I think we're just going to burn that in the oranges. Because we need the full hand of points, right? So we're going to send this. Alright. Alright, do I nuke here or do I wait another turn? I don't remember. Ooh, I do nuke on turn 5. Okay. How much damage does it do? We're going to find out. Alright, so Leon's already used his buff, so he's not important to be in here. We do have to use the resistance, the crit, and then Shion's pierce power, which is 43% pierce power. So, a decent hit, and then we'll give her guaranteed pierce. He still has all his defense up, so possibly we could hit a little harder if we waited to turn 6. But 1, 2, we could have sent more there as well, and then we hit 87,000 with crit pierce. So maybe turn 6 is better for the light team, but if you're using this team, it means you're desperate. So that's all I got for you guys. That's 40-something minutes long. Hopefully one of these teams helps you out. I made sure there was plenty because these stages are pretty ass, especially normal 1. So let me know how you fared in the normal battles, if this actually helped you or not, or if you used a different team than I did that scored higher. Let me know, let the people know. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I will see you later.